That's it. Thank you for your help. It was a Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Christelle Martinette, and as you know, this is the first in a series of Mystic Talks. So, how are we going to introduce my guest? First of all, and I won't say this, but I'll have her introduce herself. I took this right from her website. I see myself as the girl next door that just happens, and I'm going to read that up to their own psychic abilities. And then we got you, and there you are. Welcome, Amista Bennett. Blah 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 blah. Okay, yeah.
I'm gonna have a.
Let's go. Hello, 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 ladies and gentlemen. This is Christelle Martinette, and here we are, just as promised. We are live with the first in a series of Mystic Talks. Let me welcome all of the people who are there. Very happy to see you. Welcome, Michigan. Welcome, everyone. Okay, so how are we going to do this? First of all, let me present in some way, introduce our mystery guest. Instead of presenting her, I'll read. You can see the writing on the screen. I'll read what she says about herself on her YouTube channel. I see myself as the girl next door, who just happens to be psychic. I believe that anyone can do what I do, if they take the time to learn the skills and practice them. I love to help people find clarity in their lives through my readings and spiritual healing messages, but my real passion is to help others open up to their own psychic abilities. So, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Amista Bennett. She's here with us. I'm so happy that she could be here. I welcome her. You can ask questions. I will just start the ball rolling and ask her a few questions to start and warm up the room a bit. Amista and I have known each other now for, 2.5 years perhaps? Is that right, Amista?
2 or 3 years, yeah.
2 or 3 years. And it was by chance because I was listening to one of her videos, because I'm an Aries, and I was listening to her Aries video, and she was so funny. It was funny because it said something very particular, something about you're going to do this, and I started laughing my head off. And so I wrote to her and I said, you really gave me a laugh, and that started us communicating. So how long have you been on YouTube? How long have you been with this channel?
I opened the channel October of 2012, but it took me a while to decide what I wanted my videos to actually be like. So I actually started being active in 2013, around February, I think.
So as we go along, I'll look at the people if they have any questions, but after we get a little bit heated here, we can't answer questions.
Sure.
Jean, we can't answer if you're going to meet your Prince Charming. We're going to talk about spirituality, actually. So Amista, since you've started, I started in late 2014. So you were there before me. Did you notice any changes in the market, let's say, the YouTube readers that were around?
There's been a lot of changes. When I first started doing my videos, there were people that were doing tarot videos, but they weren't doing tarot videos for each sign, or at least I hadn't seen them. And now you have lots and lots and lots of people doing tarot videos for each sign. You've got a lot of wonderful young readers that are out there and just getting themselves known. There are so many more options that you have on YouTube to watch videos like this than what there was at first.
Here you go. I have a comment here from Annie D. I know her from Uranum, she said. Yeah. Then I have a question here. I'm going to put the question up. I don't know if you could see that, Amista. Can you see that? How to awaken your...
I'm not seeing the questions like we thought.
Okay, so let me put it on my side of the screen. Can you see that? How can you awaken your psychic gifts? Do you see that question? It's probably...
I don't see the question.
Okay, it's probably invisible to you. So, okay, how to awaken your psychic gifts. What is your take on that? What do you think?
I think the easiest way to really do that is start asking spirit questions and then watch and see how the answers come back to you.
Give us an example.
Well, one of my favorites is if I put down my keys and I don't remember where I put them, I ask Spirit to help me find them.
Yeah.
And then what happens generally is my eyes fall on them almost immediately. Or if I'm not even in the right room, then Spirit will give me some reason to go into the room where they are.
Okay.
And then my eyes will fall on them.
Okay, but you were
So, I mean, all kinds of questions.
right? But you were already listening. You know, you had this sensitivity of listening. Noemi from England asks, how do you know if you have psychic gifts? If you have and own psychic gifts, how can you know that?
Well, that's a really interesting question because I did for decades and didn't realize it. Really, it's for me, I knew things that there was no explanation for why I knew them.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought of that as being psychic, but if you know things and you don't know why you know them,
Yeah.
or if you have dreams that are things that happen later on, then you know you have a psychic connection. You just haven't figured out how to harness it yet.
I'm going to jump in with a question. I know there are a lot of questions. I'll try to get them up on the screen one at a time. My question is, what did your family think? What did they think when you did this? My family thought I was absolutely crazy. They still do. But when I started giving my sons who would win the soccer games, you know, they were worried. They started being fearful of me. What did your family think?
My family was a little bit in shock. They were very quiet when they first found out because we were all raised that to be psychic meant you worked with the devil. And so I think they were afraid to say, when did you make a deal with the devil? I'm not sure if I want you visiting the house anymore. But they didn't say anything like that.
Oh, well.
And my mom actually allowed me to read a spread for her. And after I went through the spread, she said, wow, that is very accurate.
Yeah. Look.
And for my dad, my grandpa came through with a message from my dad, and he had no complaints after that.
Yeah, I know. The channeling is very powerful. Joan asks, does numerology enter into your tarot work or psychic work?
For me, it does a little bit because I'm interested in numerology, and I have done a lot of studying, although I would call my level of interest amateur.
Yeah.
But it does play a part. A lot of times as I'm reading the cards, some things about numerology will pop to me, and so I'll use that information.
Yeah, and when I do readings, usually when people ask me about timing, we know timing is always difficult, right? But the numbers come in there for me. There's also another question from Neurolay who says, what makes you not be afraid to let the world know about your gift, about your work? I think Neurolay.
I think there's always a little bit of anxiousness whenever you let somebody know, depending especially where you live and what the environment is where you live.
Yeah.
But for me, it's knowing that what I do is very fulfilling and that it actually helps people, so I just let go of the rails and jump.
Right.
What about you, Christelle?
Well, it's the proof in the pudding. You know, when people are so thankful, and they, you know, even a lot of people say when they come to me, just when I start talking, to say, you know, I really feel better already, you know, and it's the energy, really. It's the passage of energy, and I really think that when you have that feeling of energy and you just feel like you're transmitting light, it is just one of the best feelings ever. I mean, I don't want to say it's better than sex, but it's close.
It's very fulfilling. Let's say that.
Abstract Wellness says, how do you know if the voice or answers you receive are truly yours or you being directed or guided? This is a good question.
Oh, that's such a good question.
Yeah.
It's practice. It's just practice. You have to pay attention. To me, it was all about paying attention to what I was getting and then figuring out, okay, I'm going to act on this, I'm going to test this, and whenever I would act on it, I would make a mental note of, okay, how did that sound, how did that feel when it came in? And then if the results were good, I knew that that was an impression that was coming from somebody outside of me with a bigger picture.
Right.
If the results were not so good, then I figured, oh, that's probably my ego just demanding that I do things.
Yeah.
And so you just have to kind of remember which one feels like what. But it is all about practice. You don't know that right off the bat, I don't think.
Right. There's some, well, you're getting a compliment here from Annie, who has read with you. She's very good. I've had many readings with her. Annie,
Well, thank you, Annie. That's very kind.
her name is Annie D. Um, let's see. Manisha Mo writes, the situation doesn't change, but the way you react to it does. And I think this is a comment, Manisha, you tell me if I've understood. I think she's trying to say that when you go to psychics or you have consultation with a psychic, that your situation may not change, but the way you perceive it and the eyes that you use to see that changes. I think that's what she meant, which is an interesting perspective. Let's see.
I think that's true, but I think also we can change things. If we know ahead of time the way the energy's sitting, we can sort of, then now we have control to swerve it if we don't like it, make it change a little.
Let's take this question from Kelpicorn. So I've been getting visions in my life. I have absolutely no idea what to do with them, especially when I see things when I am just casually talking to somebody. How to integrate stuff like that? I have the answer, but you go first. Well, let me start. Okay,
it's all a matter of, you want to start? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll start. Well, when Amista started mentioning training and practicing, one of the most important elements of practice and discipline and training is not to receive messages and getting impulsed by spirit when they want to all the time, because that means you wouldn't even be able to do anything during your day. I know I wouldn't. The real trick is being trained to know what you want, going, getting the answer, and coming back, and free your mental space. That's the way psychics work and can still walk down the street without going crazy, because the voices there are
exactly.
there are voices all over the place. If you really want to listen, you have the good, the bad, and the ugly. Do you care to add something, Amista?
I think it's important whenever you're starting to get into this and you're realizing that you're getting these messages from all kinds of different places, that you have to set boundaries, because spirit will respect those boundaries. So when I first started really getting active with this, I had to set boundaries with spirit that I only wanted information when somebody had given me permission to get that information.
Right.
And I only wanted information otherwise that was going to influence my experience that I needed to know, I needed a heads up on.
Right.
Because otherwise I was getting stuff about people that I worked with, about their family and their finances, and they wouldn't share that with me voluntarily. So you kind of have to set those boundaries for your own sake, with spirit, about what you want to get and when you want to be given messages.
Yeah. I'm going back, and I saw another comment here by, I'm trying to pull it here, Neurolay, who had said, I missed it before, how do you know you would go public? And I believe that they're trying to say public in the sense of being personally psychic is one thing, and going towards the public is another. What was that, that element that made you finally extend yourself? I think that's right.
I think you just have to know that you want to do it. Me and you were talking about this before we started the interview. Like, I ran across a skeptic while I was reading in public. Somebody had given me a free vendor booth, and I was still just really experimenting. And seeing the look on the skeptic's face, seeing that look on the skeptic's face was what made me go, oh my God, I have to do this for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
That, for me, that was it. But I think you just have to know. You have to know in your heart that, okay, this is my thing. This is what makes me feel satisfied and motivated. This is what makes me want to get up in the morning. Then you know, okay, I'm supposed to do this for everybody who will come to me to do this for them.
Yeah. I was telling Amista the other day, I've been watching a TV series that is cracking me up. It's called Psych. And I think they have 8 seasons. I think it's Amazon Prime Video, but the funny thing is that, and I mentioned it to you, he's a private investigator selling himself as a psychic, but he was trained since he was a little boy from his father, who was a policeman, to notice all of the images, memorizing things that he sees. And he passes himself off to the police station as a psychic. And he systematically goes into these fits of movement and wait, I have to think. It is a scream. It is a scream. And it does tell you, I mean, that really is part of, it makes me laugh because I know how skeptics work and how fake psychics work, and it makes me crack up. Okay,
Right.
Let's see. Manisha has a question here, which is a mouthful. Look at this. Don't most people go into reincarnation straight away? Do you think you know? Now, this is a question about life, death, reincarnation.
Right. Yeah.
So would you like to start?
The person that I have talked to personally about that was my significant other who passed away, and it took him 4 or 5 years before he actually reincarnated. Mm-hmm. So I don't think we go straight from one body to another body. That's not my personal belief.
When you say that, you mean that you channeled him and he gave you the messages afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Right. I mean, the reason I found out I was psychic was because he and I started talking after he died. And so we had a lot of conversations about what life after is.
Yeah. Well, going back to the question of whether to go public or not, I remember very clearly when I started reading the cards that I was involved with a person who I just couldn't understand. And a woman that I met invited me to learn the cards. And I said, okay, maybe I'll learn something, and that's how it started. Now, another thing, in relation to what you just said, Amista, about your ex coming back and after a number of years mentioned that he was reincarnated, I believe that there's a little more complicated story there. They may not reincarnate right away. And if they don't, they have another purpose. They are enlisted, let's say, to be a spirit guide for someone else, or to be in a certain council, a galactic council, or something like that, if they don't reincarnate right away. This is my take. That's my take. All right, so we have another. Gotcha. Let me get rid of Mo here, and we've got another question by Jessica here. Let's see, Jessica the Epic Godwin. I have a question. For many years, I see numbers. This helps me in many situations. My intuition was on high level and now is all gone. It's gone away. What happened possibly? What could that be?
There's a couple things that I have run into before where people lose their intuition. One is something happens that scares them about having intuition.
Yeah.
And the other thing is if you just quit paying attention. Mm-hmm. It's just like any other muscle. You use it or lose it. And if you just quit paying attention, it will fade away.
Yeah.
My take. What do you think?
I think I was going to say fear on the one hand, but I extend the fear because fear also makes you constrain your thoughts, and so you leave what won't pay the bills out, and you concentrate on superficial material things, which actually don't help. It's a short-sighted solution. So it's all about concentration, really. I think that is the biggest response. Neurolay says to us, thanks for answering my questions. It's encouragement for me to go out of the closet. Okay. Well, we hope.
Oh, yay!
Good for you, Neurolay. That means we're going to see a new YouTube channel shortly. Just let us know. Let us know. Then you can come back here and talk about it. Yeah. Let's see.
Right.
Let's see if there are any other questions. Eva says, oops, I have her off to the side. I can't see her. Okay, blessed be sisters. Thank you. That's sweet.
Thank you.
A sacred feminine there. Let's see. Let's say abstract wellness. She's very chatty. or he, I guess, I don't know, I just think it's a woman. Do you know if the information you receive directly from the Akashic records is different from a tarot reading? This is my answer. I'll get to this. The energy,
Yes.
and or the directness and or the exact information given. Okay. My take is this. I read the Akashic records regularly. And this was when I mentioned before being psychic. You don't wait for the information coming. You go and get it. If I say, okay, Abstract Wellness has asked me, I need to know if this person has been crossing my path, and if I am on the right path with the type of mission or work that I'm doing. And I go, and of course I have to ask you for, that's part of soul therapy. I get a lot of information from you, and then I find out that information. That is different, at least for me. And then you talk, Amista, about that. A reading is something different. A reading is, you can access the Akashic records, but the way I access is a process. It's a process. I need some. I don't want to go into it now, but it's very complex and it's very, very, very precise. You hit the question, Amista.
Well, that's really a question that's kind of out of my ballpark, because anything that I've done with Akashic has been amateur. I don't work with the Akashic records professionally at all. It's all about the tarot cards and the clairaudience, clairsentience, and claircognizance.
Yeah. I have a question from Annie, and I'm not looking at as a personal question because there's a hidden talk about spirituality. My husband passed away 2 years ago. I found him on the floor, gone from a heart attack. I have a lot of anger towards all this, all this situation. Thus, this might be the reason why he never comes to me. Could this be the case?
First of all, let me say I am so sorry for your loss, because 2 years is still pretty fresh, honestly. And anger can keep spirits from feeling safe in coming to you. I have actually done a psychic reading for a lady who was so angry that no spirit would come in except for one timid little spirit guide, and she vanished really quickly when she saw this lady's angry reaction to what she had to say.
Wow.
So anger can really hold it back.
Anger will ruin your life and ruin your energy. You know, it really does. It's anger and fear together, and that combination can make you literally physically sick. Now there's a comment here by Des Trice. Yeah, go ahead.
Wait.
Yes.
I don't want to leave this lady with just that information.
I'm sorry. Go on. Yes.
So Annie, the best thing that you can do for yourself is kind of work through things and find a way to make peace with the situation. And I know that's not easy. I was incredibly angry when my significant other passed away too, for a very long time. And so I would literally go out and pick up rocks and bang them together as hard as I could, just to try to get out some of that anger in a way that was healthy, that wouldn't project it like nasty spiritual vomit on the people around me. But it's really important to try to find a way to make peace with the situation, not only just so that this person can come through to you, but also so that you can have peace yourself and so that you can be more healthy and more whole. Best advice that I can give you. I'm thinking Christelle would probably also agree.
No, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I don't have anything to add. I put this on the screen before, and I'll put it back. Des Trice says, I just started my wealth altar. Is it good to have one? She just got a new altar. She just got a new... Well, I'm pointing in the wrong direction. No, I'm pointing in the wrong direction. She just got a new altar. Tell me.
There is no bad altar to have.
Yeah.
It's good to have an altar. It's good to acknowledge the amount of participation that Spirit has in our lives. Honor that and show gratitude for that. And I think the altar is the perfect thing for that. And if one of the things that you want to manifest in your life is wealth, then it's perfect to have an altar that does that.
Good.
What do you think, Christelle? Would you say anything different?
I think you need an altar for everything, and even if it's not, even if it's just an area where you put things up, your toys, your crystals, I mean, my whole house is here, and behind that red curtain, it's full of crystal balls and all stones and things. And that's my altar. When I open the shades there, when I open the curtains, the sun comes in. It's a big window there. Let's see if we can. All right, people are going dancing here from the live here, from the chat. Let's see. All right, let's see here. Now, this is a Cancun Lover 88 says, would changing your name enable you to better fulfill your destiny? I feel my name does not channel who I am spiritually. This is a good question for Amista, a very good question. Listen to this, Cancun. Go ahead.
That's like a perfect question
for her.
For me, because I actually...
For her. I don't know how to her. There you are. Go ahead.
Because I literally changed my name at 42 because the things that had happened in my past, there were some things that were traumatic and not healthy and not happy, and I wanted to leave that pattern behind and move towards a better pattern in my life. And so I did change my name at like 42, and I think that it does actually help. I'm definitely a different person than I was then, and my trajectory has changed. So I think it's a fantastic way to go about it. And I would also say, if you're going to do that, make sure that you really investigate your numerology on your new name before you take it on, because that's going to be really important as far as what trajectory you end up going on.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's see if there are any other questions here, more specific to, let's say, a reading you recently had, for example, or something that just didn't jive with a reading that you had, or something that you experienced that just didn't convince you, or something, anything, any questions? Let's see. Let's see. Whoops, let me, I've got to get rid of first Cancun. Annie D is coming back here, and she's saying, but having a wealth altar isn't it being greedy? God knows I need one. Is it being greedy?
I think showing appreciation for the wealth that the universe has for us is not greedy at all.
Yeah.
God or universe or source, however you want to put it, He didn't plant us on this earth just to be in poverty and miserable.
I don't like the he, please. They. Let's not use male, equal rights here.
They, whatever word that you want to use. Yeah. I grew up with he, so I'm most comfortable with that, but I do know that it encompasses all.
Mm-hmm.
So, but whatever pronoun that you want to use there, I don't think the intention was for us to be miserable. And part of not being miserable is having money, yes. But that's not all of wealth.
Right. I was just going to say
wealth is also about relationships.
Yeah. Wealth does transfer into relationships and interpersonal relations too. Different types of energy. I have another question here from Joe Flynn. All right. Let's say, what are your thoughts on soul ties? I seem to have a soul tie and psychic connection with someone. We are not together nor in a relationship. I'm very independent, spiritual, and following my path. Soul ties.
Soul ties can be really interesting because a lot of people get thrown off by the idea that there is a soul tie because that seems so strong. I think a lot of us, our conscious mind just goes to, oh, we belong together, otherwise this wouldn't be here. And that's not necessarily the case. Sometimes we just know each other from past lives and we're crossing paths. And a lot of people disrupt their lives over soul ties, and I think that is really sad.
Well,
I think it's really neat and really special when we don't cross them.
I try to explain it to my clients this way. When there is a strong, energetic relationship, and I'm going to call it a relationship, with someone you know, it's the energy passes, and you know that they're right there. You know what they're doing. I explain it to them this way, that it's a challenge. It's a challenge that we have in our life to understand what it means. Also, why are you spending so much time thinking about it. So it's not about them, it is about you. There's something in that energy that will make you grow in some way. So, I try to bring out different ideas about it, but it is a very important energetic bond. I like to say that. Let's say, uh, I'm not sure if I understand this question. Neurolay says, what does it mean when the card comes up neutral? Perhaps, Neurolay, you can give us an example of a card, of a neutral card. Give us an example. You ask a question and you get which cards. And this way I'll bring you back on screen. Let's see. Cesar says, I feel as if every time I watch my Scorpio tarot reading, I really resonate with what you're saying. Sometimes I may be having a conversation with myself in my head, and what you say answers my question. Oh, how interesting. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. I'm so glad that it resonates. Let's see.
Hello there, fellow Scorpio.
Yeah, fellow Scorpio. She's a she's a Scorpio.
You have no idea where I am on this screen, yeah. I think.
Okay, let's see. I have here a few things by NR. Okay, wait a minute. Does having tarot's readings affect or change things happening in life?
I don't think that they do, my personal opinion. Okay. And I did wonder about this when I was new at it. But I've had
in what sense?
A couple of things happen. So the thing that really bothered me was sometimes I would have expectant mothers come to me and they would want to know how's the baby's health going to be when they come out, things like this. And there was more than one where I knew the baby was not going to come out alive.
Yeah.
And it's really hard news to deliver. And I just thought, what if I'm planting that seed? What if I'm, and then they think about it and they make it happen.
Well, wait a minute.
So that really scared me.
That's true. Before we came on, a couple of days ago, Amista and I said, well, what are we going to talk about? So we wrote about 10, 15, 20 questions that we could possibly talk about. One of them that we didn't get to was, what was it? It had something to do with, is there a limit to what type of topics you will discuss with a client? So there you go. You just answered it in part. And I'm going to answer it as well. I have gone to fellow readers where, and my sister, I found out 2 years before. I knew that there was death coming in my family. I just didn't know where it was going to strike, right? And reading for yourself, what you can be blind, right? And I had all of these answers and then finally understood after 1.5 years. But when someone comes to me, it's part of life for me, to talk about death. It's really part of life. So very often a woman will say, I'm in a terrible situation. I'm dealing with my elderly father. He's 96. And I have so many, she's telling me all these things. And then she said, I have to make serious decisions in terms of my work. And because I was going to move away, I need to know if I can make these decisions now or in 2020, something like that. So the answer to me was, I would stick around a little more. When you find a situation where there is suddenly a change in the health problem, then you can make that decision, but I would wait. Or, for example, in the case that you said about the child, say there was, the woman was in her 5th month, okay, or in her 4th month, when she could have possibly put an end to the pregnancy. And a question like that came to me. I would first say, of course, no, I'm not a physician. I see there is something there. You need to have other medical tests taken. And just, put out the alarm bell there. And obviously I could never have a final answer to that. And it's not being cautious. It is, telling it like it is. But hell, if somebody came that, and I was 4 months pregnant and I would, the next day I would have gone to the doctor to find out, Let's go back. Let's say there was a question by Neurolay, and he had said, during a reading, the reader said the cards came up neutral to the answer to my question. Okay, I understand.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so Amista and I are used to asking each other questions, okay? So I'll say to her, I'll ask her yes or no questions. She'll ask me yes or no questions, and they're the hardest. And once Amista said to me, okay, for a yes or no question, you have to see. You put out 3 cards, put out 5 cards, and depending on if they're positive or negative cards. Now, I don't exactly espouse that 100%, but I have to say, if the Tower comes up, the Death comes up, the Judgment card comes up, no, don't take that decision. You know, there are questions, but what type of cards could be neutral, Amista? In a question of, for example...
Well, you know...
Yeah.
I'm thinking of, like, with his question, what I'm thinking of is whenever I do a yes or no question, I put down 5 cards. And so if I get 4 of the yes cards or 4 of no cards or 5 or 5, then I know I've got a solid answer. But say that there's a tie, say it's 3 and 2, then that's a neutral.
Oh, there
that
you
would
go.
be
Yeah,
a neutral. So then you've got to look at, in that case, when your cards are giving you a neutral answer, then you have to look at, usually there's pros and there's cons. It's not as simple as a straight yes or no. And Spirit's trying to give you a heads up of, okay, if you do this, this is what you're going to be having to deal with and work with. But if you go the other way, this is what's showing up. So Spirit can give you a heads up when they're giving you a neutral. They're not giving you a solid yes or no, but it's maybe it's a Spirit just saying, it's not such a bad idea, but how about we think about this a little more before we make the move?
Or, Neurolay, you can do what Amista does to me. I said, look, I don't know what they're trying to tell me. Look, this is what I have. And then I have this. And she says to me, clarify that third card. You know, so I'll have to pull out more cards on the third card because she thinks it needs more answers. And of course, that's what I do even in the readings, in the public readings, in the readings in YouTube. You want to get clarity, and you just keep opening. If 5 cards are not enough, get some more cards out there. That's what I suggest in your Olay. Then we have Nicholas here, Nicholas Chase, and I think he's not new to tarot reading. I think he plays with the tarot a lot. He says, in your general reading, sometimes you get very detailed for you. For you, how much do you feel is common sense, connecting what you sense, and how much do you feel is channeled? This is a simple and a very complex answer, okay? I just put out 4 videos where I scryed with crystals. Now, there's nothing common sense about any of that stuff. Nothing. I mean, absolutely nothing. I mean, I don't, for example, when I read for Gemini, I don't even know a Gemini. I have no friends who are Gemini. I have no lovers who are Gemini. The only persons I know really well are Scorpios. But kidding aside, I actually see. I use my eyes. I'm clairaudient as well, but what I do is see. My eyesight is, ever since I was a child, I could not see. I had to wear glasses. They used to call me 4 eyes. It was a mess. Then finally, in my teens, I got contact lenses that I have on, but I still can't see. I have to wear my glasses. You know, so my eyesight is trying. I can't, I don't like to use my eyes. Well, if I see through my mind's eye. That's what I was trying to get at. See through my mind's eye, and I hear the voices of Spirit telling me. So common sense is what puts the sentences together that comes out of my mouth. You'll notice, and this is a clue, when I'm getting a reading in YouTube, I'll get a mouthful out, and it says, you know, something just through, you know, the words out of my mouth, and then I'll stop, because or else it will be gibberish, and I make an example. It's as if blah, 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 because I have to link the reality to what was just said. And I'll do that several times during the reading, or else it just doesn't make sense to you, it doesn't make sense to me, and that's the way I work. But let's see if we can go on to see other questions. I hope that was a good answer for you. Okay, let's see. I hope I can say this name correctly. Zariat Roja. Hi there. I have some conflict with my intuition. Weird for an Aries. Aries, you know how they could be. Headstrong, leave everybody behind. I'm feeling connected to someone, but I don't know how to think straight. Any helpful ideas? How do you make the good choice? Well, this is a loaded question. Amista, what do you think? I'll say one thing. I will say one thing. When you're asking questions about another person, always, 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 and hands down, I have never had anything to the contrary. It's not about them, it's about you. You have to ask yourself why you are thinking about them. Are you projecting your male or your female side, your anima or your animus, to them? And that's what you're looking at. You're looking at your own reflection, your anima in them. You see, so it's very, very complex. You really need to understand more about yourself rather than the other person. That other person has so many problems of their own. That's my take. What do you think, Amista?
I think I'm pretty much in agreement with you. I think you want to look at the reactions that you're having to whatever's going on with this other person or whatever isn't going on with this other person that you're picking up. And you want to look at where are my reactions bigger than what they logically should be? Where are they overreactions or even underreactions? And look at why are they being triggered like that? Because it may have much more to do with something that happened in your past that's being triggered than it would have to do with that actual person. And so then you have some personal healing to do. So that's where me and Christelle agree. Like it's really personal whenever you're having a hard time being objective. It's more about take care of you rather than try to figure out what's going on with that other person.
All right, here I have, there are more questions, so we have to move along. Is the rising sign connected to the past? I feel that resonates with me when listening to you, Christelle. I've never had this experience about the rising sign. I'm not exactly sure what that means, actually, because to me, they are in the same league. I don't know. Amista, what do you think?
Well, I just watched a video not long ago that was put out by an astrology person, and she likes to also teach, and she brought up an interesting point, which this question makes me think of. So I'm a late degree Scorpio, and she recommends for late degree Scorpios, when you're looking at astrology, you may want to look at early degree Sag, because some of that stuff you may be behind the other Scorpios in time. And so for this person, it may be that their rising sign is closer to their sun sign, and they may just be in a early degree or a late degree and have this, that it works out better for them. It could be. I mean, that's my best guess.
I have here an interesting question. Cesar mentions, what does it mean when you start seeing a lot of moths around your house? It's not only moths.
You should buy mothballs.
You should buy mothballs, she says. It's not only moths, it's a lot of things. If you start seeing all of a sudden near you cats,
like a bunch of flies,
a bunch of cats, something that is not usually happening to you and in your midst, in your environment, that is very typical of messages that are trying to be, someone's trying to get your attention. That's when you should go to a psychic. That's when I suggest going to the psychic.
Right.
Let's see. Abstract wellness. Very, very chatty tonight. Abstract wellness. Is there any particular reading or spiritual exercise that is more accurate? I believe you obtain pieces of information at different times depending on the person you connect to.
That's an interesting question. I think that as far as more accurate, there's so many different modalities that psychics can work with, like different tools. There's astrology. A lot of our astrologers are psychic as well. I think that we're drawn to the best reader for us at the time. And the best way to do that is go follow that lead where you're drawn to. And it may not always be the same reader. I mean, you may have a great reader for years and years, and then you might find yourself drawn to another reader. It doesn't have to stay the same for your whole life.
Yeah.
But in general, I would recommend if you find a good reader, you want to stick with them as long as they're running a good track record for you.
Yeah, yeah, trust them. I have here a question. We might be able to take a couple more questions, then I think we need to leave. But Nancy Castiglione says, what can I do to enhance my ability to contact people who have crossed over? This is a loaded question as well. Like I said before, people come to me to channel loved ones, okay? Now, I never have problems connecting to them at all because, like I said before, you train yourself to go and get what you want when you want it. Unless there is a spirit that's very, that says this is not the time to connect. Okay, then this is not the time to connect. I reimburse the client and that's it. It's never happened to me. How about you, Mista?
I have had one time where that's happened to me. But I think the more important thing about learning how to connect with somebody who's crossed over is always going to be make sure that you've got your psychic self-defense before you start trying to cross into that other realm.
Right.
Because if not, you're leaving yourself open not only to that person that you're trying to connect with, but when you're opening up to that realm, other beings could also connect with you. And you could, I don't know, basically catch psychic germs, so to speak, that can be very dangerous. So you first rule of connection is always psychic self-defense first.
She calls
and then you only want to connect with somebody who can stand in the light. You don't want to connect with just anybody.
Right. I call it psychic hygiene. You can. There's a lot online in terms of self-preservation, psychic.
And I've got a video on my channel they can look at for that too.
Yeah.
That I go through like my process that they can use if they would like.
How long ago is the video called? Do you remember the time or the title?
It's on my homepage. I think I actually literally called it Psychic Self-Defense.
Okay.
But it's down lower things on my homepage.
Right. Okay, I have here Melissa.
And if they just look up Amista Bennett.
Melissa says, why would you feel the need to buy an opal? You know what opals look like, right? Well,
opals are fantastic for whatever mood you have. An opal is going to enhance it. So if you are in a happy place, then you want to have opals all around you to extend that. Now, at the same time, the first thing you want to do if you start to crash and go into a really bad spot, you want to stick them all in a drawer until you're doing a little better and then pull them back out.
Yeah. Let's see. What about All One? All One has asked, how do you know if you're tapping into collective consciousness versus spirit? This is an interesting question. It's a long answer probably here. The idea is to know what collective consciousness really is and what's the difference between that and spirit. Is collective consciousness the notion that we are all one, like your name there, all one? Or and is it the sensation of by I think it was Neural, I don't remember, maybe it was Wellness, who said, how do I know, what does it mean when I keep feeling that person? What does that mean? It's energy in any case. It depends on what kind of questions you're asking, where you want to get the answers, what answers you want to get. I suggest trying to learn to read the Akashic Records if it's in relation to some person that you can get your answers more clearly. Amista?
Well, I think it's a really interesting question because I was actually talking to somebody yesterday about what is spirit? What's the difference between spirit and ghost?
Right.
Because, ghost is the spirit of somebody who's crossed over, where spirit can be a lot of different entities besides a ghost.
Right.
So collective consciousness, to me, that is the combined intelligence of all the spirits around, alive, dead, whatever.
Right.
If you want to connect with a specific spirit, then that's different. You kind of have to know who it is that you want to connect to. You have to set that intention. If you want the information of the collective conscience, you have to know this is where I'm going for my information. It's all about setting the intention.
Right. One last question, and this is an odd question, I think. What advice would you give those struggling with sleep paralysis? I don't even know what that is exactly. I'm not sure what that means, sleep paralysis.
I think it is when somebody sleeps, some people go through a certain period where they, like when they wake up, they can't move for a little bit. I don't have any suggestions on that. I have never dealt with that, so I don't have any experience to pass on.
Yes, you know exactly what to do, Amista. Reiki. Have people, Reiki, she's a Reiki master, I'm a Reiki master. You have people working on you regularly for Reiki, with Reiki, and that will...
That's a good idea.
Yeah, it's the only...
We're coming at it from a different perspective, because I was looking at what can she do for herself. But yeah, Reiki is the answer. Anytime you have something that...
Yes, she can also, or anyone, a man or woman, can learn the premises of Reiki and learn what Reiki is. I was just talking to a friend of mine the other night, and he was, I think I mentioned it to you, and he was saying, yeah, every day, when I wake up, I clear myself. Okay, and I said, let me see if we're on the same page. I said, well, come on, David, tell me. And he says, well, this is what I do. Here, I go like this with my hands, and I imagine a white globe, and I just press away the clouds and then bring up the light. And okay, that's his way, and it works every morning, you know. And everyone has their own way of praying, of, you know, and but energy, if you work with energy, that is the best solution, I think. I think I have one more question here, and then we'll give it a say goodnight. Faye Cashano says, what does it mean when every day, multiple times a day, I see the number 11?
Oh, that's powerful. That means that you're coming into some new phase in life.
Well, Firefly answers and says 11 is the divine.
It is the divine as well. It's also new beginnings.
But it's for me, the divine within us. It's a new beginning for our God, the God that we are, the light that we are, you know? I mean, we could go on and on and on, but I think we have to stop.
That's great to be able to see 11 every day.
Yeah, sure. Imagine 1111. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Let's say goodbye to Amista. Amista, I will...
Namaste, everyone.
Namaste, and we'll be back.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome. And we'll be back. I'll be back for another Mystic Talk. If there are any readers out there watching or will be watching and would like to come with me onto these Mystic Talks, write to me at readings at ChristelleMartinette.com. Bye-bye, ladies and gentlemen. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye-bye. Let me see how to turn this off.